Essentially. Wow. Now, that is something that Kevin O'Connor had said previously.
EBT. Everybody but Tatum.
Everybody but Tatum. That was Kevin O'Connor's report. Shams just confirmed it on some level. He said, well, yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Everybody but. Now, that doesn't mean they're itching to trade Jaylen Brown.
And no, but it feels like
frame it that way.
You're going to get calls about everybody. And can't you see a scenario where you're like, all right, there's a little bit of blood in the water. You have no Tatum for a whole year. Everybody in the league knows about the second apron. They're going to call, I would think, about Jaylen Brown at first, Derek White at second, and then depending on how that conversation goes, maybe Brad's like, all right, well, we're not doing that right now, but like we do Porzingis, Holiday, try to get a deal done. But my guess is Brad's going to be talking to almost every team in the league.
So he said, essentially, and it's hour 2, Jones and Keefe here on WEEI. We'll talk to Brad full at 1. We'll go on the clock. Does Steph Diggs need the Patriots, or do the Patriots need Steph Diggs? That's at high noon. And we'll get to Belichick later this hour. Leah Anthony's appearance this morning on the Greg Hill Show, which you're not going to want to miss.
No.
But Shams said, essentially, everyone not named Tatum, they'll listen on. But he did say their focus is on Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and Sam Hauser, which I think should surprise no one.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are open for business, likely to move one or any of all three of those guys. In a related story, the Celtics just put out a tweet. Glue Holiday, a picture of Jrue Holiday. Glue Holiday.
Glue Holiday?
Yeah, he's glue guy.
Yeah, I like that.
I think.
That's
unless
pretty good.
Unless I'm missing something else. Oh, you like that nickname?
Yeah, I kind of like it a lot.
Glue Holiday.
Plus, glue is Glue. Jrue somehow is Jrue. So we're pretty close.
They're right around.
He is a glue guy.
He is.
But they just tweeted that out like Glue Holiday. Like somebody just thought of it. They're like, guys,
this is
what call him Glue Holiday.
This is what I always wonder.
Or is it right before he gets traded?
Right. These social media accounts, they're always putting stuff like that out.
Yeah.
But is there any correlation? Let's see.
Interesting.
Or is that like a defense of Jrue/Glue Holiday?
Jrue/Glue.
One day after his name is in, I wouldn't say trade rumors, but Shams is bringing up his name in a potential move.
Yeah, I guess.
But I'm with you, Keith. I think the Celtics have to listen on any offers for Jaylen Brown and Derek White because of the Jason Tatum injury. If Tatum's not hurt, I wouldn't really even be listening on Jaylen Brown unless you're going to blow me away, Giannis or something like that. But I think the Tatum injury opens it up to listen to everything. The fact they're focused on Holiday, Porzingis, and Hauser, those are the most likely names to move. But I think if you get blown away, and we played this for you last week. We were talking about this last week. Mannix was on NBC Sports Boston, has their off-season,
Smart.
apostrophe.
No, I get it.
Zun.
Right.
Oh, I would have done the ZN.
Season.
I've voiced this. I would have done C's ZN is what I would have done.
Yeah, that would have been a little snappier.
Yeah, well, the kids would like it.
Yeah.
They'd appreciate it.
They'd eat it up like a pot roast.
But Mannix said, the Spurs are the team to watch in the Jaylen Brown sweepstakes. And, oh, by the way, the number 2 pick might be the Capital, along with some other players that could move. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, names like that. So I wouldn't do that trade, but I don't know. What do the Celtics think of Ace Bailey? What do they think of Dylan Harper? And if they really like those guys as prospects and think they would fit well with Tatum and they can reset their books, then they got to listen. I wouldn't do that trade.
No.
But maybe Brad loves those guys.
See, I think there's enough way to reset your books and keep Jaylen Brown, because as soon as you trade Jaylen Brown, you are then going to be, I would assume, either chasing another top 20 talent to join up with Tatum 2 years from now, or you really are sold on Harper or Bailey or whoever the second best player in the draft is. But even if that guy's great, we just went through this with Tatum and Brown. It took those guys, as great as they are, a few years to really become the players that they are. So I think by trading Brown and, not getting back Cooper Flagg or not getting back somebody that is more in line, like Devin Booker, not that you would do that, but you know what I'm saying? Like somebody that's already established. Without doing that, you're kind of telling Tatum, like, I don't know, like we're gonna save money and you're gonna be the guy, but you're gonna be just tearing apart the team. Because if you trade Brown, maybe you don't necessarily have to trade, I guess, Porzingis or Holiday, but Porzingis is a free agent after next year. Horford's not going to re-sign if you don't have Brown and Tatum for a whole season. Jrue Holiday is a year closer to free agency. So Tatum's going to be left with nothing when he returns if you trade Brown in that kind of scenario.
Yeah, unless there's a younger player he could grow with, like you said, in the Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg realm. You wouldn't trade. I know this, but just to go through it, you wouldn't trade Jaylen for Kevin Durant.
No.
Me neither.
No.
Not now. I've done it 15 other times.
I was
going to
say this question's been brought up and on for 5-6 years.
But I am now officially out on that. You just brought up the name Booker. Would you trade Jaylen for Booker?
Yeah, maybe. I do like Booker a lot.
I think I would do that.
I would do that.
If that's
But that's not a money-saving thing,
Well, I was just going to ask, what's Booker's deal? I
think it's probably similar.
He's got to make less than Jaylen.
Well, yeah, because Jaylen signed like the biggest deal ever.
But
at
it's
the time.
It's not cheap. Whatever his deal is,
I think it's a ton. I'll look it up. But that's not a salary dump.
I do think Booker would fit nicely with Tatum. And
yeah,
so
awesome.
if you're talking about building around Jason Tatum and the fit with Tatum,
Booker makes 53 next year,
wow.
and then 57, then 61.
Okay. No. So you're definitely not.
So I kind of feel like Booker's a little bit of a loser.
He is.
He
might be a lot of a loser.
Celtics fans should know this. I mean, that 70-point joke of a game he had his rookie year.
When they got blown
year,
up by like 30 points.
Yeah, they kept calling timeouts.
Yeah.
So
they took a picture like he was Wilt Chamberlain. You're like, hey, bud, you guys got smoked.
You scored 20 points in the last minute because your coach kept calling timeouts and the Celtics didn't care.
No, Durant, Booker, and Beal playing together on a team and not making the playoffs. Yeah. When 10 teams make the playoffs, they're all losers.
Booker,
but they're good. Like they're individually, they're good.
Booker is a little bit of a loser.
Not Beal anymore,
but I'd take him. He's a loser who hasn't won. Would you trade Jaylen for the loser who has won, Giannis?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this, but he is just such a better player. I don't like him, and so that's why I'm like, it's a not as easy a yes as it should be. But Giannis was third in the MVP this year, unanimous first-team All-NBA. He still has a few more prime years left. He's that much better than Jaylen, and you could still get a couple of years when Tatum returns where you make a run at it. So, yeah, begrudgingly, because I don't like him, and I would do that, yes.
Yeah, so, but this is my point. Yeah. When I say the Celtics have to listen, I'm not telling you Milwaukee will offer that deal, but I think if San Antonio offers you the number 2 pick, you got to think about it. I wouldn't do it, but that's worth evaluating and really thinking about what it would look like and how the team would fit and who do you like beyond Cooper Flagg. I think Flagg would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, Flagg's an obvious one. Giannis, I just wonder, like...
Giannis, I would pause, but I would do it.
So would I, but what's the end game there? Because if you're trading Jaylen, isn't the biggest reason money saving?
Yeah.
And Giannis makes the same amount, pretty much.
Well... Yeah, I think the biggest reason for Bill Chisholm is money saved. Not for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be accomplishing that.
I mean, I guess
trade. Correct.
Depending on what their cap situation, maybe it's Brown and a couple other kind of thing.
This is what I think you do, or you make another.
But like
move
a 1-for-1, like you're left in the same thing, right? So a 1-for-1 would really be a basketball trade, and it wouldn't be a money trade. Whereas I feel like any Porzingis, Holiday, and like Hauser toss-in, those are all money trades. Like if everybody made the same amount, they would probably keep all these guys.
So I think they're listening on all of them. The irony is the guy no one wants to trade. I saw Scal going off on this the other day. He's like, there's no chance they trade Derek White. I mean,
there's a chance of everything. But...
I wouldn't be itching to trade Derek White either. If you want the most bang for your buck, I think there's 2 guys you could move to get a big return. It's Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. And that's because they are on decent deals. Jaylen's on, let's face it, a horrible deal for a guy who's about to hit 30. Only so many teams are going to pay that. Like, Jaylen Brown is not valuable because of his contract. He's a really good player, but he's not valuable because of his contract. And I think Jrue Holiday is not valuable because of his contract. Porzingis, I actually think, has some value because of his contract. He's an expiring deal.
Yeah.
We'll see who's right and wrong about that. But if you really want bang for your buck, Derek White and Pritchard, I wouldn't move Pritchard personally. That's like a heist of a deal. Derek White would be the guy you listen on.
All right, I'm not doing it. And I know Shams just said it's everybody but Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
But
I like this. Yeah, but.
So Tatum's coming off an Achilles injury. He's going to miss all of next year. You have to pay him $54 million next year to rehab and get better.
Tatum for Giannis?
I'm just saying. Like,
is that what you were going to ask?
Well, Tatum for any of these guys. I mean, Tatum for a package of players. Now, he's better, but...
I wouldn't do Tatum for Booker, but Tatum for Giannis because he's hurt does make some sense.
Because you do have to... You're like, fingers crossed that he recovers full go, and he's worth the Supermax, and he's still a top 5 player. Even top 10 player, he'd be worth it, and you try to make a run at it, which is what I'm banking on. I assume he's going to miss a year, and then he's going to be back. He's going to be pretty close to it. But if they're trying all these different things, like... If you're willing to, if they're willing to trade Jaylen Brown, who was the Finals MVP, and you have him locked up long term,
and won
You
two,
wouldn't-
won 2 games without Tatum.
So
in the
like, yeah,
playoffs
we'll
last
listen.
year,
We'll listen on Brown, but we're insulted by Tatum. It's like,
Right.
well, one guy's out for the season.
No. The merit, because in a vacuum, who do I want more, Tatum or Giannis? I want Tatum.
Same.
So that's who I would take in a vacuum. Now Tatum's hurt.
Yeah.
Could I?
But let's say
could
the
I
next-
trade Tatum
right.
for Giannis, and maybe Giannis and Jaylen next year could win something?
No.
Okay, but that's
For like the next 4 years.
it's interesting to talk about. I'm
No,
I'm
that's-
also a no on
that's
that,
all
but
we're
it's
doing.
interesting to talk about.
It's a talk show. I'm not doing it. I'm just saying, like,
Instead of
everyone's
wait-
like,
no,
you
but
could
instead of-
trade Jaylen Brown. It's like, why are we even entertaining trading Jaylen Brown? But it's like, it's like, oh my God, don't even ask about Tatum.
Well, and
It's like,
instead of-
Brown's going to play next year.
Right, instead of wasting everybody's time for a year, and
Yeah.
who knows what Tatum's going to look like
So,
post injury,
I-
which this injury has a horrible track record, a horrible one.
I think if, let's say they made it around further, and let's say Porzingis was healthy, and these are all hypotheticals, clearly, and Jrue Holiday looked a little bit better. Wouldn't there be no? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying,
trying
like,
to wrap my head around it. Yeah.
So they won the title 2 years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
With this, they bring the squad back,
Yep.
and let's just say Tatum got hurt and Tatum's out, but everybody else looks pretty good. Wouldn't there be a little bit of like an itch if you're the new owner to say, well, that's $54 million sitting there.
Well-
It's not even playing. Do we run it back with everybody else and whatever we get for him and try to take a run at it this year? Actually, be really competitive.
You're surmising the owner cares about winning,
Well,
and not
he's-
making his money back.
Dude, he watches all the games.
He's the biggest Celtics fan.
He wore a jersey to the game, and he knows Chris Forsberg.
It was a Tatum jersey, though.
He's from the North Shore.
Yeah. I'm just
Or is he?
Yeah.
Bit of a Lance Dobbins situation
way to go,
going on
Lance.
with Bill Chisholm. Yeah.
No, I'm not. At the end of the day, I'm not trading Tatum either. I just say, like, if it's literally everybody's available, it's like, well, then wouldn't he also be available?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. They should listen. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to read what Sham said when he said essentially.
Yeah.
Nick, can you just clip the very end of that?
Real quick, too,
Yes.
I would just point out before people say, like, well, who would want a guy out for the whole year? I mean, that's how Kevin Durant went to the Bucks. They signed him as a free agent knowing he would miss an entire season.
Yeah.
So they paid him the supermax to sit, or not the supermax, but they paid him the most they could for him to sit for a whole year. And then he was good, but again, he's kind of a loser, and the Nets didn't do anything, and that ended up being a mess with their different versions of the super team. But I think teams would be interested, and they would say, all right, we'll sacrifice a year to have 4 years on after.
As we talk this out, essentially could mean two different things. Let's hear the very end of Shams on McAfee yesterday.
Everybody but Tatum?
Essentially.
I mean,
Oh, essentially.
does that mean? So I
Oh,
read
you could go one or two ways.
I read
yeah.
essentially as, well, yeah, essentially everybody's available, but they're probably not going to move Jaylen or Derek White. Their priority, or however he worded it, is to move Hauser and Holiday and Porzingis. But essentially could also mean, well, yeah, but
Yeah.
they'd listen on Tatum too.
I feel like Brad Stevens is pretty similar to Danny Ainge in he'll trade anybody. Don't you think?
I think a good GM should look at it.
They
that
should.
way.
No, they should. But I think some like
Like
Mark,
if you have Jokic, I'm not looking to trade Jokic. Tatum ain't Jokic.
Yeah,
So
but
I'd listen. If I were OKC in the right deal, I'd listen on SGA.
really?
Yes.
Like Mark Cuban, for example, would not have traded Luka Doncic. He wouldn't have. Mark Cuban wouldn't have.
Probably not.
No, he even said so. He's like, I'd rather get divorced than trade Luka.
But people can say whatever they want. But he
Yeah.
also kept Dirk forever. So fair. Yeah, probably.
So I
not.
think there
Yeah.
are maybe a couple of guys that would, but I just feel like, Marcus Smart had been on the Celtics for a long time. He's not the player these other guys are, but like he was blown away by it. Like he had no idea he was getting traded, and he did. And so, Brad, he's trading Kemba Walker, he's trading Malcolm Brogdon after a year where he's the sixth man of the year. Like he's trading anybody. Now he has held on to Jaylen Brown despite 1,000 trade rumors, even in the only couple of years that he's been running the team. So maybe he is more partial to Jaylen and Tatum. He's going to keep those guys together, but I think Brad would be capable of anything.
Speaking of Jaylen, and again, Shams isn't saying they're trading him, but he's not ruling out that they're going to listen on those guys. Does the announcement of Jaylen's surgery complicate that in any way? It sounds very minor. He's going to be back
it sounds
for
like
training
he's going to be
camp,
good to go.
but
So
does
I don't
that,
think
does
so.
that complicate anything?
No, I don't think so. I think teams also don't expect players to play 82 games anymore, right? So even if Jaylen Brown has to kind of ease into the season, I think teams would be just as interested as before.
So I think this can be a good team. I mean, tell me who's around Jaylen Brown, but I think this can be a good team next year in the East without Tatum.
But do you think there's
And
any chance Porzingis and or Holiday are back?
I think there's a chance one of the two of them are back.
Okay.
They won't both be back.
No, they're both gone.
And I think Hauser's almost a lock to be gone.
So Hauser's also gone, and whatever. Maybe Baylor Shireman can be Hauser. Maybe it's not much of a drop off. I guess the question I have is, I'm with you. I think Porzingis and or Holiday are as good as gone. The question is, does Brad find a way to replace those guys with like a rotational player, or is it just like picks, buyouts, scrubs?
Let me give you one. So Porzingis, this was brought up to me by Max Letterman. You know Max at NBC Sports Boston.
Yep.
What if there's some kind of switch of Porzingis for Vucevic? Maybe the Celtics have to throw more in, but Vucevic is in the last year of his deal. He's older. Like, what if there's a swap like that? And just a swap like that, I'm not saying that specific one, where you trade Porzingis, but you get back a guy who is a good player and a representative player, and you've kind of remade the way you play to a degree.
Yeah, and I think that's what Brad's going to try to do.
So
that's
Jaylen with Vucevic instead of Porzingis, and now maybe you throw in Hauser.
More games. Yeah, Vucevic is healthier than Porzingis.
One, you throw Hauser in that deal, so you are ultimately saving money, and you're not locked into Vucevic. But like a trade like that, I think they can be still middle of the pack in the middle of the playoffs next year.
Yeah,
and not Craig Breslow middle.
No.
But, actual middle of the pack, like 4 seed next year in the East, 50-ish wins. I think they can do that.
Because if you take away, let's call it Porzingis, Horford, Tatum, Hauser, that's 4 of your 8 or 9 guys. You know what I mean? So, like, that's quite a difference. But if you have Brown and White with a couple of bigs that aren't trash bigs, right? Like, you want to be better than Luke Cornett if you can get it, better than my guy Keita, if you can get it, and then you keep Peyton Pritchard. I'd personally keep him off the bench. Let him do what he did last year. Let him be the same type of player last year. Don't try to get way too much out of him, and see what that team can do.
Yeah,
it's still better than what we were going through. The Ringer does their updated top 100 players in the NBA. They update it every month or whatever it is, and the Celtics still, even without Tatum, had 5 guys in the top 90?
Yep.
Like, that's more than most teams.
Right. And even if you traded off Porzingis or Holiday, you still got 4 guys in the top 100.
Right.
So,
I mean, you're those guys.
You're talking about a good team. I think, regardless.